What's up everyone? Let's talk about Yura, Azami, and some of the biggest developments that have taken place during the assault on Kamunabi HQ. The story of Kagurabachi just hasn't missed a beat. With the head of the Kamunabi being officially revealed as the traitor, Yura wielding the abilities of the Magatsumi as a sort of proxy, Azami putting on a hell of a performance, and a new mystery regarding a second vessel for the barrier surrounding headquarters, this stretch of the story has been an absolutely insane ride. There really is a lot to discuss, and frankly speculate, because I'm sure we won't be getting all the answers to our questions by the end of this arc. We know for a fact that Yura has just been on a roll since the start of the operation. It's one thing to know from the outside that the Hishaku move differently because there's a scary list of things that only they've been able to pull off, but seeing the inner workings of the machine is something else entirely, because we finally witness firsthand how much of a threat they are. And as the story continues to unfold, it's pretty clear that we still really haven't even seen the real ceiling of that. Of course, Yura is right at the center. Despite not having foreseen Uruha's presence, he improvised, and with Hokuto's help, took on Uruha and Natsuki. Yura's capable enough to hold his own against both Master Swordsmen alongside Hokuto. He's able to get by with his unreal athleticism early on, but as soon as it becomes clear that the odds are not in his favor, he cranks up the dial and stops playing games. Like always, dude is 3 steps ahead of everyone. Cause yeah, even though Samura threw a wrench in his plan bringing back Uruha, what Yura had done with the Magatsumi even before that is something that no one could have seen coming. We knew Kyora Sazanami was baited into being used as a guinea pig to wield the Magatsumi. But time and time again, Yura shows that he is not afraid to get his hands dirty. Yura had charged up the Shinuchi with his own spirit energy before handing it over to Kyora, in his preparation for this moment. After the Rakuzaichi, he confirmed that it was indeed possible to bypass the contract of the Magatsumi to wield this power without being completely hijacked by the Sword Saint. Kyora demonstrated that it requires astronomical mental fortitude and unparalleled determination, something that Yura clearly doesn't lack. We see that pretty early in the assault on HQ when Yura makes a bet with the old man and flips a coin with his life on the line just to go to the bathroom. We're not talking about a guy who just has a strong sense of conviction for his cause, but rather who's also genuinely convinced that the universe favors him. That, like he says, the gods are on his side. To me, this is why Yura should be feared. I mean, that and the fact that he's been able to essentially activate the Magatsumi remotely and use its power at will. It takes Azami with the sacrifices of Uruha and Natsuki to be able to slow Yura down. They figured out the one weak spot in Centipede and immediately exploited it. The Master Swordsmen used themselves as bait so Azami could position himself behind Yura. Azami's coin sorcery is one that was passed down through his lineage for generations to cure illnesses. It's stated that the different characteristics of ionization between the two metals produce an electrical current. Azami's father was a local doctor that became known for using such technique with success, keeping the truth of its sorcerer's nature a secret. Soshiro Azami, however, became the first to adapt the technique for combat and got kicked out of his house because of it. On one hand, the sorcery allows him to speed up his blood circulation, and on the other it can intensely stimulate the muscle fibers of his opponent. The latter is exactly what he does to Yura, practically paralyzing him before catching him with a right hook to the ribcage, despite his arm being broken. Even Yura's variation of Magatsumi's dragonfly attack wasn't enough to stop Azami, who's going up against the most destructive power in the verse with nothing but his bare hands and 2 coins. Azami proves why he's the strongest sorcerer in the Kamunabi. Dude is in the zone, not phased at all. But it's just as important to recognize that Yura is nowhere near being out of commission himself. And he's aware that he doesn't have much time since Kazen confirms that the barrier protecting headquarters has been altered to prohibit the entrance of Enten and Tobimune upon detection of their spirit energy, which is thanks to the preparation and presence of a second barrier vessel. Azami talks his shit though, and calls Yura out for not being able to hold him off despite technically being unarmed. Yura responds by saying that the Magatsumi's power is bit by bit coming to his grasp, and adds that he's ready to live up to Azami's expectations. And Yura takes things up a notch again, drawing on more of the Magatsumi's power, with Centipede coming out from his mouth as the blade's signature plant life manifestations seem to sprout from him. Kazen had said that his comrades did good work, which we know now specifically refers to the Hishaku rather than the other traders of the Kamunabi like the knives and transformation sorcerers. In fact, if the second barrier vessel reveal is handled anything like the trader reveal, then I think everything points towards young Hishaku really being it. Him not being able to go in the bathroom, his nervousness before the operation started, Yura straight up lying to him telling him he's the strongest, and well, how chapter 97 cuts to him saying Yura will be king right after we find out about one of the Hishaku being a vessel for the barrier. Feels like he's willing to sacrifice himself to make that happen. The 4-month preparation process for the HQ's barrier vessel is traditionally a rigorous one that requires a reconstruction of the body and the sacrifice of some organs and reproductive functions. So it might be worth wondering if the process this time around for the second barrier vessel was any different, and what sort of implication that may have on the current situation. With Kazan officially confirmed to be the insider that's been conspiring with the Hishaku, it's hard not to question everything we think we know about the Kamunabi. How deep does the corruption really go? We know that after the war, opinions were split regarding what to do with the Enchanted Blades, but not much else really. One thing we did learn though is that Yura is exactly the guy that Kazan wanted to wield the Magatsumi. The Kamunabi traders and the Hishaku don't just have shared interests, they're working towards the same goal. But I don't think Kazan will be much of a player moving forward. So what's the fallout of this assault ultimately going to mean for the rest of the Kamunabi? This is why the Azami-Yura matchup is so damn exciting, because we're not just talking about two of the most capable hand-to-hand fighters finally going at it, but the weight behind Azami's motivation, Yura's unrelenting willpower, and the implications of the outcome make this a turning point in the story, one that could very likely alter the status quo. And in between all that's going on is this interesting kind of connection between Yura and Azami where both practically put the fate of their lives on a coin, or two in Azami's case. Now, we've known for a while that Yura just loves to gamble, so though I don't think it's a coincidence at all, I think the connection is a symbolic one, with perhaps some sort of underlying message. We know that what Yura flipped in HQ betting with the old man was a 5 yen coin. Azami uses a 10 yen and a 1 yen coin with his sorcery. So let's put our tinfoil hats on and use some numerology to theorize what the hell Hokuzono could possibly be hinting at with this. Starting with Azami, the numbers 10, 1, and 11 don't really seem to have that much significance or any big superstitions attached to them exclusive to Japanese culture. Generally, the number 10 can be associated with a sense of completion or foundation, while the number 1 can symbolize beginnings and individuality. So when it comes to the symbolic interpretation of the number 11 as a whole, I think we're looking at concepts like duality, transition, or the end of a phase and the start of another. I think this could relate to Azami in a couple of ways. The number 1 could be alluding to his history with his bloodline sorcery, considering he carved his own path and was the first to take the sorcery in a new direction. The number 10 could be a reference to the single objective Azami has had throughout the entirety of the story so far, and the fact that he once and for all has the opportunity to complete that objective by defeating Yura. Now, putting those two together is where I think it gets interesting, especially in contrast to Yura's 5 yen coin. Because the number 5 actually has heavy cultural significance in Buddhism and can be seen as auspicious, as it's not only associated with the 5 senses, 5 elemental forces, and more, but it can also represent balance. In addition, the 5 yen coin is considered lucky since the Japanese pronunciation of 5 yen is apparently a homophone for another term that can mean good fortune or divine connection. So you probably already see where I'm going with this. I just don't see Yura losing at Kamunabi headquarters. I think it's much more likely that instead, Azami dies at his hands or is rendered incapacitated in some way. With Azami losing, this is where I think the number 11 could hint at the fall of the Kamunabi as we know them and the rise of the Hishaku. And look, I know this might all be a bit of a reach, but authors like Takeru Hokuzono shouldn't be underestimated when it comes to putting things right under our noses in creative or elaborate ways. Even putting aside all that crazy number talk, the mere fact that Yura, who's already known for gambling and winning, bets his life on a coin toss that lands in his favor right before his most important operation yet already tells me everything I need to know, especially when he's up against someone else with a new coin gimmick. I would bet that only one will be left standing, and we already know who the gods favor. We also know that Yura is very much looking to become the leader of a new order, and until Samura and Chihiro are back in the picture, the only ones standing in his way are Azami, Uruha, and Natsuki, and the three of them are already in pretty rough shape. Azami is also showing another level of resolve now, as he's starting to come to terms with the idea of his own death as long as he can hold off Yura until Samura and Chihiro arrive. I just don't think it will be enough. I love Azami as a character, but I just think that Yura's level of determination and belief in himself is really unmatched, and I don't think that he can be stopped right now. Hell, I seriously think Samura might get sent packing too by the end of this arc, considering Yura already said he would sacrifice him for the greatest possible gain right before launching the assault on HQ. I think it's safe to say that Yura's stocks are higher than ever right now, which I will admit also has me a bit nervous, because he's putting on a hell of a show, and I'm scared that the Sword Saint might come in to steal his thunder and shock us all. Yura was pretty emphatic about killing him, but I wouldn't put anything past Hokuzono at the moment. Now I'm interested in your thoughts on these latest developments. Do you agree with any of my predictions? Make sure to leave your own theories in the comments. I'm always happy to talk bocce, so thanks for watching and staying until the end. Consider sticking around. Much love and take care. Peace.